So it's Thanksgiving in the States today, and in lieu of having a Thanksgiving Day video, I decided to talk about some books that I am particularly grateful for. Because even if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I think a little bit of gratefulness goes a long way. So I have several books for you here that we're going to talk about. Important to note, these books are not a ranked list, and they are not my favorite books of all time. I intentionally did that because I really want to appreciate these books for what they did for me. There's not a magic number to share, it's anything goes. I look forward to seeing what kind of books you guys are thankful for, and let's get into this list. The first book on my list is Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson. This is the book that introduced me to hard science fiction. It was just complex enough to challenge me intellectually, but just satirical enough to make it a fun read. The second book on this list is going to be The Hyperion Cantos by Dan Simmons. This book gave me that taste of sci-fi perfection that I have been chasing ever since. Next is the book Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This book made me fall in love with a friendly alien. This book gives me a book that I can recommend to any kind of reader, and hopefully lure them into science fiction in the meantime. Next, we have the book Neuromancer by William Gibson. This book's opaque plot and unlikable characters gave me the courage to do my very first ever negative public review. And it also made me sit down and think about why it is I don't like this book so much, making me, I hope, a much better reviewer than I would have been without it. Then we have Remnant Population by Elizabeth, whose cantankerous elderly protagonist named Ophelia gives me hope that regardless of our age, the best part of our story is still yet to come. The next book is Orcs and C by Margaret Atwood. This book showed me the importance of going outside my comfort zone and picking up and completing a book that makes me uncomfortable. It showed me that I can still love and appreciate a book even if I don't 100% love the actual reading of it. We can't forget Ubic by Philip K. Dick, whose crazy ingenious plot and spot-on ending taught me that just because you didn't like the first book by the author, or even the second book by the author, you might just love the third book by the author.
No way.
After all, our next best read is always in places where we're not expecting it. The next book is The Psalm for the Wild Bill by Becky Chambers. I really enjoyed the self-help aspect of this book, and I'm very grateful that someone out there is trying to reach out and invents a sci-fi hug, if you will. Then we have the Foundation Trilogy by Isaac Asimov. This book showed me how fun and accessible vintage science fiction can really be, and how applicable it can be to my life even decades later. This is also a trilogy that represents one of my most favorite buddy read of all time, No Aliens Required. Then we have 11/22/63 by Stephen King, a hefty chunk of a book that taught me that the page count and the number of words don't really affect my enjoyment of a book, and helped me get over my intimidation of large books. Then there's Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, who showed us all that regardless of how disgusting the outside of a creature looks, we can all fall in love with those things that most disgust us, as Portia showed me in this book. Next is Bloodchild and Other Stories by Octavia Butler. This collection of short stories and the author's thoughts gave me insight into one of my favorite authors of all time mind and thought process. It made me feel seen and even less alone in one of the hardest times of my life, and I will always be grateful for this book. Moving on, we have Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. This series really taught me that having an escapist read can reinvigorate my reading life and my excitement for reading in a way that philosophical or hard science fiction can't.
Yes. Oh, yes, very much.
And that means that there's a place for a little bit of fun, popcorn or candy reads in all of our TBRs. And finally, last but certainly not least, the book Dune by Frank Herbert. This book's glorious, deep world building and fantastic imagination has captured the hearts and minds of many generations. And because of that, it has made science fiction cool again, and I am so grateful. Last but certainly not least isn't a book, it's me being grateful for you, my viewers. Thank you so much for putting up with all my accidental mispronunciations and sometimes my less than consistent videos, and all of the fantastic support in the comment section down below. I honestly couldn't do this without you, and I really mean it when I say I am so grateful. I wish you guys a very happy Thanksgiving, and can't wait to read some of your comments about the books that you are most grateful for. See ya in the next video.